are looking in your notes, proving similar triangles. Key 2 facts. Quiet, please. The vocabulary. Angle similarity rule says if two angles in one triangle are congruent to two angles in another triangle, then both triangles will be similar. This is not a long video, but as we look at this, this is going to be really, really key. So as you watch this, and then we're going to take a look at this next part in our homework that you will be looking at. So the video, as we look at that,
are triangles congruent if they have the same angle measurements? In this lesson, you will learn about similarity by comparing triangles with congruent angles. Let's do a quick review. Congruent figures have the same shape and size. These two triangles are congruent. Similar figures have the same shape, but not the same size. These triangles are similar, but not congruent. Similar figures are proportional. Notice how the orange triangle's sides are double the size of the blue triangle. Are triangles congruent if they have the same angle measurements? Let's look at an example. If we start with this small triangle and then extend each side, we can create a larger triangle by drawing a parallel hypotenuse.
so in your homework, sometimes I'm going to ask you similar triangles and they will overlap like this. These two triangles both share this angle of 90. So when we look at those, you just got to be really careful when we are looking at overlapping triangles as we look at doing our problem.
So the angles will have the same measurements, but the sides do not. The sides are proportional, but they're not the same length as the first triangle. So these triangles are similar, but not congruent. Let's try a word problem now. Triangle ABC has angle measures of 58, 58, and 64 degrees. Triangle DEF has measures of 64, 58, and 58 degrees. Are they congruent? Here is what triangle ABC might look like, and here's how triangle DEF might look. The problem didn't give us any size lengths, so we can draw them any size we want. Also, the order of the angles does not matter because we could always rotate and or flip the triangle to make them match up. But remember, we also could have drawn them as congruent triangles, so the answer to the question is that there is not enough information given to have an answer of yes or no. In this lesson, you have learned about similarity by comparing triangles with congruent angles.
So in our case, what we are going to be looking at as we do our homework is we are going to try and see if they are similar. So as you read this, Stephen, would you read what it says? Determine. Keep going.
When you answer a question like this, here is the format you should use. The underlying parts will vary depending on the problem. Fact 1, Fact 2, therefore, similarity statement. Because there are two pairs of congruent angles.
So when you look at your homework, your answers will look like this. You're going to give me the two facts. You're going to tell me the two angles that are congruent. That's going to be fact 1 and fact 2. Therefore, you'll say these two triangles are similar because it has two pairs of congruent angles. Or the second way that you could do this is you could say there are not two pairs of congruent angles, therefore triangle 1 is not similar. So if they are similar, this is what your statement will look like when we take our test next week. Looks like our test is probably going to be Tuesday of next week. This is what I will look for that part. So we look at these triangles up here. We have triangle ABC and we have triangle DEF. And we notice they both have a 90 degree, and this one is 51 and this is 39. What does this measure B have to be? How can we subtract to find that? We can take 90 and subtract 39. And if we take 90 and subtract 39 degrees, we end up with 51 degrees. So do these triangles both have the same angle measures? This one is also going to be 39, so put those on your picture. So as you do your homework, you're going to put those numbers on your picture. And then what we want to take a look at is we want to write our statements. And our statement for this one is going to start off with, as we are looking at it, each triangle has a 90-degree angle. The small triangle, these are my facts, remember, okay? This is my first fact. Each triangle has a 90-degree angle. My second fact, the small triangle has a 39-degree angle, and the unmarked angle must be 51 because all three angles in a triangle have to add to 180. So we have two triangles that have 51 and a 90, or 39 and a 90. This is the last statement that I will look for, where it's set up here. Therefore, I listed my two facts. Triangle ABC is similar to triangle FDE. Does it matter the letters that we put? Can we put DEF instead of FDE? If you started at 39 degrees, you got to start this triangle, which is at letter F, at the 39 degree. You cannot change the order. So if you start at the 39, you have to make sure it says FDE, not EDF, okay? Because the two pairs of congruent and what all these different markings mean. So it says you can classify triangles based on their sides. Here are some properties of triangles that help you identify. Equilateral. If you put these three tick marks going around your triangle, that means they have all equal lengths. And if all the sides are equal, that also means that all of our angles will be equal and they will all be 60. In an isosceles triangle, these two marks tell us that two sides are the same length. But that also means these two angles will be exactly the same. That's going to be really important today when we look at our picture and they have these marks. Sometimes they don't tell you, they might tell you one of these numbers, which means the other one has to be the same. Sometimes they're going to tell you this angle up here, and if they tell us this angle is 50, that means these two together have to add to 130, right? If I tell you this angle is 80, these two have to add to 100, which would mean 50 and 50, okay? Scalene triangle means no sides are equal, and usually you will not have any angles equal. So examples of how our arcs are tick marks. These two are telling us these two sides are the same length. This tells us all three are the sides. This arc length, we need to make sure that the tick marks that we're looking at, they are going to show equal sides. These arc marks, the curves, are going to show us when we have equal angles. If angles or sides are not marked, here is the key phrase for you. Do not assume that they are the same length or measure. So some of you will look at a picture and you'll just say, oh, they look the same. A lot of times our pictures are not going to be drawn to scale, so watch out. Always vertical angles. Vertical angles are always going to be congruent. If you have parallel lines and a transversal, all the congruent angles that you have are your corresponding. You will have alternate interior and alternate exterior. So these are going to be kind of key as we are looking at our lesson. So when we take a look at this first one, it says, are these two triangles similar? So the first thing we notice is that when we look at angle R, they both have a 45-degree angle. So in triangle R, we are going to put angle, these are our two facts that we have to list. We're going to put angle R, please write this now, is going to be equal to angle V, which both equal 45 degrees. So the thing that we know, the first fact that was given to us, is that these two angles are congruent. In our triangles, because the two lines intersect at point S, we also know this angle. We cannot call this angle S. We have to call it something like angle R, S, W, is going to be equal to what angle? Is across from it vertically. Angle VSB, okay? Angle VSB. And then we have to tell why these two are congruent or equal. So these first two, we're going to use instead of equal, I want you to put the congruent symbol, the equal with that squiggly line over the top, congruent, congruent. And the reason that these two are congruent, because they were vertical angles. And now the next statement, we have our two facts. And now the third thing that we said we were going to do after we have our two facts is we're going to write, therefore, and this is how all of yours will kind of look. If you get used to doing it, you'll do it on the test. Therefore, triangle. We're going to start with angle at 45, so R and then SW is similar, that's our symbol for similar, to triangle. We have to start at the 45 and then go to S, so V, S, B. They're not really in order, but you have to make up sure that they have the same angles, right? So these two angles are going to be equal right here, and they both start at 45. So therefore, our last statement, the reason that we can say the two are congruent is because there are two pairs of congruent angles. Two pairs of congruent angles when we are looking at our picture. So we look at the next one down. And as we look at these two, I got 30 and 70. Please right now find the measure of these two missing angles. Find those because. And the next statement you're going to put down is we are going to put, we know that angle L and R are congruent. So please write that in that box. Angle L and angle R are congruent. And you can put right behind, they both equal 70, kind of like how we did up here. And then the next statement is what we were taking a look. And because we use that triangle, three angles in a triangle, the measure of angle K, all I need you to put down as you look at that is the measure of angle K is 80. The measure of angle P is 25. And then we have to have this statement. So, only one pair of angles are congruent, so the two triangles are not similar. So when I am looking at yours, and we take our test next week, this will be the kind of phrase I'm looking for. It says, no, this does not mean that one of the triangles does not add up to 180. It just means these two are not similar to each other. You want to notice is that we have these parallel lines, and if you can think of maybe even extending them sometimes, that might help you to look at this picture. And if this is our two parallel lines, because they're marked with these triangles, or those arrows. What do I know about angle A and D? What kind of angles are they? Okay. Alternate interior. So angle D and A are going to be congruent because they are alternate interior. Okay. What else do we notice at point E? They're vertical. So if we have vertical angles, we also know that those vertical angles are going to be congruent. So we know that these two angles will be the exact same measure. Can we now say that the triangles are similar? Yeah. We want to list our two facts. So when we list our two facts, first fact, we might say angle A was congruent to angle D. Could I have done B and C? Would those be congruent too? Yeah. Yes, for the same reason, right? A is congruent to D because of alternate interior angles. The next thing we know, and we need to use three letters at E because there's actually an angle up here with E, so we're going to call it angle AEB is going to be congruent to, and if I started at A, which is marked, I need to start the second one down at DEC. Our reason for this one is going to be because they were vertical angles. So knowing those definitions is going to be really helpful. So now we can write down, therefore, triangle. And if we are looking at it A to E to B, is similar to triangle DEC, because we had how many angles congruent?
2 angles are.
2, because 2 angles are congruent. And when you are doing these in your homework, it's going to kind of be the same thing. You are always looking to find 2 angles. Now, actually, in this one, we probably could have had 3 because we could have said this one here, C, with those 3 marks, could be congruent to B. And that would have been the same reason because they're alternate interior. So the next thing on this next picture down, please find that missing number. We have 48, 76. If on this triangle, what is our missing number going to be? 48 plus 76, subtract from 180, we should have 56. Is there any way that these are going to be congruent triangles? No. So when we look at ours, this is my information. You're going to see how they have it written here. I don't know that you need it again, like some of you are saying. I don't need that. I think I need to write all this down. Here's probably what I would write down if I was looking at this one. I simply would have put angle K was congruent to angle Y, which both equaled 76. And then I would put not congruent or not similar. And our reason would be only one angle was congruent. Only one of our angles was congruent. By showing me that you found one of those angles, that's what I would need to see on your picture, okay? That you found this one to be 56, and over here we have 73, or 76 and 63, and there's no way either one of these is going to be 63. So I can tell by looking at your picture that way. These are the 2 that are the trickiest ones. So what I want you to do is we need to draw these 2 triangles to the side. So we're going to draw one up here. And when we draw this triangle, we're going to label the sides. So there's these 2 overlapping triangles. Here's our first one. It's going to go from A, so put down the letter A here, to C, to D. Please draw that triangle, A, C, D. Next to it over here, we're going to draw the other triangle where it overlaps. And that one goes from B, we are looking, to A, to C. Okay? On the top, this angle C is only marked to right here. So it's only for this first triangle. So I want you to put, that's on this line going down right here, so draw that here. This is angle. Other angle that has that arc in is over here at B. As I look at this picture, what I know from the picture is that angle C, please write down, is congruent to angle B. And the reason this is that this is from, if we are looking at it from the marks on the triangle, okay? So because of those marks on our triangle, we know that these 2 angles are congruent. Is there any other angle that you see that is the same in both triangles? Now you got to be careful for C, because this angle up here goes from A to C to B, and this one goes A, C, D. So the C angles are not the same. What other one? Jack. What other angle is the same? Jeremy. A. So what you want to write down next is you want to write angle A is congruent to angle A. It's the same angle in both pictures, right? It has to be the same measure, okay? Angle A, this angle right here, is exactly the same in both pictures, right? So, do we now have 2 angles congruent? Yes. So, because angle A, we can now say, therefore, we need to tell our triangles that are similar. Triangle A, we're going to go to C to D. Does that make sense? We're going around this first one. A to the 2 marks to the 1 mark to D. And now we're going to say is similar to the other triangle. Someone want to tell me my 3 letters I should have? I'm still starting with A. Okay, I already have ACD listed, so we got to have A to B to C. Okay, so you got to use, this is like your first triangle, right? This is your second triangle, and when they overlap, my hint will be draw them separately. So, therefore, these 2 triangles are similar because 2 angles congruent. As you look at this last picture in your notes. Again, I want you to draw, the big triangle is already here, so we're going to draw the small triangle. The small triangle, and we're going to separate it. So we're going to have O to P, and then point N is over here. So please draw that triangle, O, P, N. Draw a smaller triangle. Okay. So we have that large triangle. The large triangle is here. Okay. In green. The small one is in pink, if we are looking at that. What angle is exactly the same in both of them? Angle N is congruent to angle N because they're the exact same angle, right? We don't have to put a reason with that one. In both triangles. Okay? Now, these are parallel lines, right? Cut by a transversal. So we actually have 2 more angles. They correspond. Someone want to tell me one of ours that correspond? Angle, not M and O.
L and P.
L and O. P is going to be exactly the same as angle. Angle P.
Oh.
Congruent to angle M. Could I have had O and L instead? O and O. Angle O and angle L.
Yes, L and O.
Okay, those would have been also. But I'm going to say this one, and the reason I'm going to call this, and at angle P, I can't use just letter P. Because there's this angle, there's this angle, so we want to call it angle, if we're talking about M, we might call it OPM. Or if you had angle NPO. Does it make sense that we cannot use just the one letter? Okay? That one letter can't be used. And our reason here is because corresponding angles. We are then going to say, therefore, triangle, and if we are going in order from L to M to M to N, is similar to triangle. We are going to go from O to P to N. And our reason is because we have 2 angles congruent. There's really one more page of notes tomorrow that we are taking a look at, and that's it for the minute.